Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video from Mr. Michael's channel for extraordinary young people just like you. This video is about the O-Level English Language Exam Paper 1, the composition section of Paper 1, and we're focusing upon descriptive writing. This is the first part of a series of videos about descriptive writing. Here are your learning objectives for today's session. The first thing that we will do, as per usual, is review some vocabulary from a previous session. The second thing that we will do is I will introduce you to a past paper question, specifically focusing upon descriptive writing. The third thing we will do is I will provide you with a model answer to a descriptive writing question, and we will analyze it a little bit, look at why it's successful and what we have to do in order to produce a high quality piece of descriptive writing. And then finally, we're going to look at the features of descriptive writing, and you're going to do some descriptive writing yourself. Lots to look forward to. Now, for those of you who are very serious about improving your English, it's very important that you learn as many words as possible. Here is a vocabulary journal that I will be providing to my students. If you're interested in learning more words, then you should write these down, write the definition, write some synonyms, and write a sample sentence for each word. That will help you to boost your vocabulary, and we will use these in future videos. Now, here's your starter activity. There are 3 words on the screen. I would like you to write those words down in your notes and write a synonym or a definition for each one. If you can do that from your memory, from your mind, all the better. But if you can't, you may look them up in a dictionary. Pause the video and do that now, please. Okay, feedback in 3, 2, 1. First word is absorb. And the word absorb means to soak up or take. You can absorb water with a sponge, or you can absorb information when your teacher is speaking to you. The second word is to squirm. Squirm means to wriggle or twist, motivated by disgust or discomfort. If you see something that you don't like or makes you feel a little bit, you squirm. A physical movement to demonstrate disgust or discomfort. And the last word is cultivate, usually used in the context of farming. It means to prepare land to be farmed. It can also be used metaphorically, and that word's important because we'll be looking at that later in today's session. It can also be used metaphorically to speak about the growth of a person, to cultivate somebody's character, for example. Now, before we do anything related to descriptive writing, I want to show you a past paper question so you can understand the type of question that you will have to answer in the O-Level English Language Exam. So I would like you now, first of all, to read the question, and secondly, to jot down a few notes, a few ideas that come to your mind immediately when you see this question. Pause the video now, please. In 3, 2, 1. Now, I quite like this question because it gives you a number of different options. It tells you to describe the effects of different weather conditions on your neighborhood. And of course, there are many different types of weather conditions, like rain, like sun, like wind, like snow, for example. And therefore, there are lots of different options or things that you can write about. Remember that you don't have to only write about one of them. You don't only have to write about your neighborhood when it rains, because it says different types of weather. So therefore, you could write a paragraph on when it's raining, a paragraph when it's sunny, a paragraph when it's windy and snowy, etc., etc. Now, here's some key points about the descriptive writing task. You are expected to write between 350 and 500 words in the O-Level English Language Exam, and you have approximately 45 minutes to do that. There are 30 marks available in total for this particular task. Now, an important distinction to draw between a piece of descriptive writing and a piece of narrative writing is that a piece of descriptive writing does not tell a story. Okay, you're not telling a story. There's no conflict, there's no climax, there's no resolution in a piece of descriptive writing. Instead, what you are doing is you are describing in detail what you can see around you. So if you can imagine yourself standing in a place, looking around, and you're explaining what you can see in the most engaging and interesting language possible. It's important to remind you that descriptive writing is not chronological. It doesn't follow a timeline. It's just you standing in a particular position, watching what's happening around you. There is no story in a piece of descriptive writing. Could you please write these in your notes now? Pause the video, please. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, this is a model answer that I have written for you. I would like you to pause the video and I would like you to read it now, please. In 3, 2, 1. Right, let's analyze this a little bit. The first thing I want to mention is that there's no main character, is there, in this piece of descriptive writing, because descriptive writing doesn't have any characters. Remember that all you're doing is describing what's around you. In this text, the writer is simply describing what happens in her or his neighborhood when it begins to rain. Now, there are 3 sentences highlighted there. I like that sentence that says, "The gentle thud of raindrops on the tin roof of my garage is calming." The gentle thud, this is rich rich vocabulary and creates a very clear image in our minds. The second thing that I've highlighted, the edges of the road in front of my house gradually fill like a bath. Okay, this is called a simile. We're going to come across similes a little bit more in a moment. And the last thing that I've highlighted there, the birds frantically shake to remove the droplets of rain that have landed on their tiny heads like crowns. The writer is describing the drops that have fallen on the birds' heads in terms of a crown. Again, this is called a simile. Now, this model answer will give you an example of the type of writing that you are trying to produce when you do descriptive writing. Figurative language is extremely important for descriptive writing. There are two main types of figurative language. The first one is called a metaphor, and the second one is called a simile. I'm pretty sure that you will have heard of those before. A metaphor is when you describe something in terms of something else in a non-literal way. The word literal means when something is used in its most usual or obvious or basic way. I was reading a magazine article last year which was talking about a football match in which Cristiano Ronaldo played and scored a hat-trick. He scored 3 goals. The title was, "Last night Ronaldo was on fire." Now, obviously, that's a metaphor. I hope it was a metaphor because, of course, he wasn't literally on fire. It was explaining the excellence of his performance in terms of something else. When you say that someone is on fire, it's a metaphor. And the second type of figurative language is called a simile. And this is a figure of speech comparing two unlike things using the words like or as. She is as brave as a lion, or she jumped like a kangaroo. These are simile. Here are some more examples for you, and these ones are connected, related to the past paper question. The rain hammered down on our roof. Was there really a hammer? Boom, boom, boom. Really? No, of course not, but we're describing it in a non-literal sense, in a metaphorical sense. And here is a simile. The rain sounded like a hammer hitting our roof. It is extremely important for you to include some figurative language in your descriptive writing because that will improve the quality of it. So you got to practice. Here is production phase 1. The past paper question is at the top of the screen. You have to produce 2 sentences containing metaphors and 2 sentences containing similes related to the past paper question above. Okay, off you go. Go do that now, please. In 3, 2, 1, let's move on. This is descriptive writing strategy number 1. Number 2 and number 3 we will focus upon in the next video. Strategy number 1 is focus on the tiny details, the smallest possible details. If you can write about the smallest possible details in a situation, that will make your descriptive writing very rich and very engaging. And there are 2 examples here. The first one is from the model answer that I read to you already. The birds frantically shake to remove the droplets of rain that have landed on their tiny heads like crowns. When you're describing the neighborhood and the rain falling in the neighborhood, is the first thing you think of the tiny birds shaking their heads to remove the water from their head? No, that's not the first thing you think of. But by focusing upon the tiny details like the small bird, it really brings the scene that you're describing to life. It engages the reader and it makes your descriptive writing very rich. Let's have a look at the second example. The wind blows stray droplets of water in through my slightly opened window, gradually creating a small puddle of water on the tiled floor. Again, tiny details, small details. This helps to create a really rich piece of descriptive writing. Let's move on to production phase 2. Your task is to use that strategy. Okay, I want you to produce 2 sentences describing tiny details related to the past paper question. If you're going to describe your village when it's snowing, for example, think of the smallest details, and that will help you to produce a really good piece of descriptive writing. Make sure you produce 2 sentences. Please pause the video and do that now. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, all that's left is the plenary. The first question is, how many words are you required to write for the composition task? The second question is, tell me 2 types of figurative language. And the third one is, tell me a synonym for the word cultivate. I hope that that's been useful. Make sure that you check out part 2 of the descriptive writing coming soon. Thank you and take care.